In the last 3 episodes in this series, I talked about living with highly intense positive and negative feelings, how my body reacts to my intense emotions, and what it's like to live with a strong, effective memory. In this episode, I want to talk about my fears. I have a lot of them, so I'm gonna get to it. In previous videos, I talked about my fear of loud sounds. I'm fearful of the sounds of fireworks going off, balloons popping. I can't even stand the pop you hear when someone uncorks a bottle of sparkling wine. I also talked about my fear to fly. I told you that I dread the prospect of having to fly weeks before I embark on an airplane. Furthermore, I told you about my social anxiety disorder and my obsessive compulsive disorder, but aside from living with those disorders, I also live with a lot more fears, and that's what I intend to share with you in this video. Firstly, when I was 22, I was in a terrible car crash. My ex-husband and I were driving downhill with a camper, and suddenly, as we were driving downhill, I saw the back of the camper next to us. I had a blackout, and the next thing I knew, I stepped out of a wrecked car. Luckily, no one was injured, but it left me with a deep fear to drive a car, and my ex-husband was the one who'd been driving at the time of the accident. Still, I developed a fear to drive which I've been unable to shake off to this day. It's not being in complete control that I fear. Secondly, I have muscle dysmorphia, which is the delusional or exaggerated belief that one's own body is too small, too skinny, insufficiently muscular, or insufficiently lean, although in most cases the individual's build is already normal or even exceptionally large and muscular. I remember when I was 11 and was watching a documentary about Hollywood men. The men were talking about how important it was for them to look fit. I remember looking at my own body afterward, feeling dissatisfied with it as I found it too skinny. So I started working out. I still do. I work out every day, and it's weird because although I know I'm muscled, I still feel I'm skinny. So that feeling of dissatisfaction with my body stays and forces me to go on working out. Although I love working out, I know it's my muscle dysmorphia which makes me do it every day. Thirdly, I suffer from Mysophobia, which is a pathological fear of contamination and germs. I didn't used to have this fear. I developed it at the beginning of the coronavirus lockdown in March 2020, as I, just like no one else, didn't want to catch the virus. I still don't. Since then, I excessively wash my hands. The only time I left home during the lockdown was when my husband and I took the dogs out for a walk. Whenever we met other people in the park, I stayed at least 2 yards away from them. I still haven't stepped inside a store, but I have picked up teaching English at the elementary school. A little bit linked to this fear is my fear of diseases such as cancer, ALS, and Parkinson's disease. Fourthly, I fear all kinds of creatures such as spiders, bugs like beetles, rats, snakes, and even frogs. I've had this fear all my adult life, and why? I guess it's 'cause seeing them gives me a very unpleasant feeling. Fifthly, I have a strong fear of failure. My college years were a living hell. I had nightmares about exams before I had to take them, and afterward I feared the results so much I couldn't sleep at night.
Although my grades were high, I still feared the next exam and the next exam results. If I fail, it damages my self-esteem, makes me feel awful about myself, and that's why I fear it.
The last fear I want to share with you is my fear of aging. I dread getting old. Although I'd rather get old than die, I dread getting a wrinkled face and body and not being as healthy and mobile as I am now.
Although you can't see it from this distance, my hair is getting gray, and that's something I find hard to accept. I've had nightmares in which my hair was completely gray. And then I woke up. Why do I have this fear? I think I have this fear as it's hard for me to say goodbye to my youth. I know I'm not the only one who has this fear though. Now, when you've heard about most of my fears, you may wonder, how am I able to stay happy and lead a normal life? I can tell you, it is possible. I face some of my fears every day and every year. For instance, I do fly, and I've learned to live with the fears which I'm unable to face. For instance, I'm fine not driving. So I'm definitely a happy person, though I do live with these fears. Subscribe to my channel and watch this series from the start. Next Friday, I'll be back with more Swedish pronunciation training. Till then, I only want to say 3 things. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and bye for now.